there's a documentary just coming out, which I'm all in for, right? It is Frank Miller, American Genius. I just heard about this today. Let's have a look at the trailer.
You talk about talent. He writes, he draws, he screenwrites, he directs, and he is tops at all.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Frank Miller, which it's so telling how he's a genuine talent, whereas today's writers are not. He looks like hell, right? He looks like absolute hell.
Those things, and that's pretty damn good.
Frank Miller!
I had to go into the comic book store and I would only look for Frank Miller. I wouldn't even...
So if you don't know who Frank Miller is, he along with Alan Moore revolutionized comics in the 80s. Alan Moore not very happy about it. Here, let's just 1 second. Let's juxtapose that with this. So Alan Moore did Watchmen and Killing Joke, a very famous Batman story. Swamp Thing. Again, he absolutely revolutionized comics. But Frank Miller did Dark Knight, which is there's so much stuff based on it, right? But where is it? Here, Doink.
Tons of headlines just saying BAMSOC PAL comics have grown up. And like they hadn't. There were about 3 or 4 halfway decent comic books, and the rest of it was still the same juvenile rubbish that had been produced for the last 40 or 50 years.
I feel so bad for Alan Moore, right? Because like he had such an incredible love for comics, and that was beaten out of him by the comic book industry, right? Absolutely beaten out of him. Now he's a real author, right? I think he's much happier for it. But like, I would love to live in an alternate universe where we had a happy Alan Moore who would go back and dip into comics every now and again, just for fun.
What the comic boom of the 80s did was grant a license to a lot of people not to have to actually grow up. By calling them graphic novels, which was a term that I hated because they're not particularly graphic and they're certainly not novels. Usually they're 12 issues of She-Hulk stapled put together. That is not a novel. What I think happened was that a lot of people who were just interested in the adventures of Green Lantern, even though they were 35 or 40, having Watchmen gave them a way of saying, oh, look, I'm not emotionally retarded. I am reading, this is a graphic novel that are for adults. No, it's not. It's the same comics that you've been reading for ages. I would feel happier about it if graphic novel actually meant something more than it does at the moment, which is big, expensive comic. And that's pretty much all it means.
Yeah, a lot of time I think he's absolutely right. Anyway, but Frank Miller just did so much. So this is the other side of the 80s comic revolution.
He is 100% ingenious.
There's something about his work that transcends comics. That's what great art does.
He made the...
I mean, that is true. Like he always progressed throughout his career and always brought new interesting things. One of the first things I read of his was Ronin. I wasn't really into superhero comics at the time, so I read Ronin was this that blew my mind because that was a real comic, right? That I would say was a real story for not adolescents, but he did a sequel recently, I think. And then they went into Dark Knight, but then later in the 90s he invented Sin City and had this incredible visual style, like just absolutely fantastic, right? If you haven't seen any of the Sin City books, I mean they're not overly intellectually stimulating, challenging, but they certainly look good.
Massive leaps. The Daredevil series, Ronin, Wolverine, Sin City, Superman 300.
The Dark Knight Returns, the introduction of the graphic novel to America.
I loved being this with Alan Moore, right?
American superhero comic storytelling.
I have a relationship with the audience who I like to tease, and I like...
That man looks like hell, right? Looks like hell.
To thrill.
Frank's power comes from silhouettes and shadows, which makes everything more valued. I use less and less line. Finally, I just started using no line at all.
To be an artist is to speak your truth as loudly as you can.
I mean, that stuff he did with Sin City, where there was, he essentially got rid of the line, right? Alan Moore did something very similar in one of his first works. It was called V for Vendetta. Would you ever see the movie? It's like comparing a chicken McNugget to a filet mignon, right? The comic is fabulous, but it originally came out in black and white, and the speech balloons didn't have a line around them, so it like brought the speech into the same plane as the comic, right? The artwork. The artwork by David Lloyd, fantastic.
The paper, the ink, the brush, and everything matters.
He got to a point where he was recognized by everyone.
I had a tough time handling the success. It was a real...
Honestly, if I ever get success, I'm not going to have a tough time handling it. I'll be like, oh, success is awesome. I'm really made for success.
That's the character. Stan Lee, he said that my stuff wasn't quite up to Marvel's standards yet. Got into comics as an artist.
But if you like comic book documentaries, Future Shock, the documentary about 2008 is fantastic.
And I had to fight to be allowed to write my own work. It can look like revolution when somebody's combined things that haven't been combined. In my career, it's when I've taken the risk to follow the stuff I'm dying to do, the stuff that I think would be fun to read. Those are the most intense projects I've had and the most rewarding on every level.
I think calling this American genius is fair. Honestly, the word genius is banded around far too much. This guy is like the reason I would say genius is because he spent a life grafting, honing his craft.
Through persistence and good luck, I managed to spend my life doing exactly what I wanted to do ever since I was 5 years old. That's about as American as it gets.
Oh, June 10th. Oh, that's coming out soon. That looks good. That does look good. I am up for that. I'm not going to sit and see that. That's certainly a streaming streaming. But, my name's Tzvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.